Husband and I not vibing anymore. Feeling depressed and alone. Changes since marriage. My husband and I have been together for several years, married for a small portion of that, and I'm starting to notice things have changed drastically between the both of us since being together / tying the knot. Let's start with me. I am younger than my husband, and when we met I was quite small, fancy-free, and very active. Little over 5 and 115 pounds. Since we've been together, I've tried to stay active, but I've unfortunately gained about 50 pounds, which has taken a toll on my body and self-esteem. I also stopped doing my hair and makeup, because my husband would rather save time, and I no longer fake tan or have my eyebrows threaded. This week he asked me to stop having my nails and hair done, so that's next on the chopping block. I stopped going to the gym because nearly every time I went my husband would call or find my iPhone, my cell, until I picked up, rather than text me, because he would always have a task he needed me to complete ASAP, or question regarding lunch / dinner. This made me too anxious / embarrassed / unmotivated to go back. Now I'm so out of shape I'm honestly ashamed to go. When we met, my husband and I had separate jobs. He was an independent consultant and I worked with an advisory firm. Not long after being together, he convinced me to leave work on my lunch breaks, or start my day hours earlier, so I could help him with his work. At first I was happy to help, but when it interfered with my job, I knew I had to choose between the two. My then boss advised against it, but I chose my now husband, and became licensed in his line of work and continued to work for him. Unfortunately he never paid me. He eventually, however, bought a house without telling me, asked me to move in and said our funds were jointly going toward bills, which at the time was enough for me. We were not engaged or married at the time and I was / am not on the deed. When we first moved into our home, I kept the place spotless. I washed the dishes, vacuumed and shampooed the area rugs, kept the wood and tile floors shining, even cleaned the toilets after my husband couldn't be bothered to. Every night I made a home-cooked dinner from scratch, and on the weekends I'd invite a mixture of our friends over for drinks, dinner, and board games. Prepare and plate an entire spread, multiple courses, and clean up after that as well. My husband and his friends started a little joke. That I actually didn't have a job, that I was just a trophy wife or housewife, or that I didn't choose to work for him, that I was fired or had no choice. Both jokes were untrue and really hurt me when I heard them. When I asked him to stop, he assured me they were just jokes and everyone knew that, but he kept telling them anyway, until recently I suppose. I don't know what happened or when, but slowly I couldn't do it anymore. I was too exhausted to do the cooking and housework while also trying to keep up with my husband and all of his and my appointments, especially without payment or recognition. Planning a wedding alone felt like another unpaid job, and my husband couldn't be bothered to help. I wanted to elope, he wanted something big which was both expensive and time-consuming. I've been diagnosed with ADHD since my childhood and I have PTSD from a bad situation. Until recently, I thought I was doing okay without medication. Now I see both a therapist and a psychiatrist bi-weekly and take 8 pills a day. Antidepressants, anti-anxiety, and a couple to help me sleep and to help with the nightmares. For the first time in my life I'm having panic attacks weekly, and I started getting this involuntary tic in my head / neck sometimes when my husband is really agitated with me and raising his voice. I can't predict it. Luckily it's very rare and temporary. My husband is now trying to book me appointments with other doctors to get me off of the pills I'm on and back onto ADHD meds so that I may be more productive. I've had a handful of introductory appointments with docs that luckily just wouldn't work for me for other reasons. Third-year residents with only 1 year of eligibility to see me, doctors who don't believe in medication, etc. Comment. It sounds to me like he's controlling you and you are giving up who you are for him. He uses you as a housemaid with benefits. You need to leave. Your husband is horrible, abusive, and controlling. Please talk to your therapist about making a plan to get out of this situation. You will feel so amazing when you're free of him and you realize you can do absolutely anything you want. Classic controlling abuser. Isolates you from your job and pre-marriage life, breaks down your confidence and self-esteem, break down your body, makes you depend on him for money and shelter. Get out. Next story 2. I'm having trouble moving past partner's dishonesty. My partner is a good man and a good partner to me and father to his 2 kids. He's got a great work ethic and a corporate career. We've been together for 3 years. In July I left my hometown and my 2 grown kids to move with him to another state. He's always wanted to live here, has family here, and his son was accepted to college here. The weather and scenery here are much nicer than my home state, and I deeply love him, so it felt like a good move for me. I lived with him for 3 months before we made the out-of-state move. During that time, it became clear that he was drinking more than I'd realized before moving in. I was concerned, but his father had just passed away, and when we talked about it, he apologized and said he'd been under a lot of stress. He cut back. About a month ago, it became clear that he was frequently drinking while he was out in the evening running errands, going to the bike shop, he cycles, etc. Then I discovered that he'd been smoking cigarettes, and I never knew he was a smoker. I brought this up to him, and he admitted that he'd been hiding his smoking from me. And he said that he was having his beer and cig while he was out b/c. He was ashamed and didn't want me to see that part of him. I'm not a judgy or conservative person and have never shamed him for anything. This shame comes from his own view of himself, and the fear is from past rejection that he's experienced. I understand all of this, and have compassion for it. His behavior doesn't change the fact that I know he's a wonderful person. What I'm struggling with is the fact that, while I have been totally upfront about the things about myself that I don't like or that could be a problem for him, he has hidden things from me. He hid these things, knowing that I was making a decision to leave my home and family to move 1,000 miles away with him. Whatever his reasons and intentions for doing so, it is so hurtful. It's a betrayal of my trust. He told me in a recent conversation that he realized that he'd been holding back emotionally and hadn't been completely vulnerable out of fear that I would leave. I get it, vulnerability can be so difficult. But I have been vulnerable with him about myself from the beginning. I have invested so much in the relationship. To know that he has held back and allowed me to move with him, knowing there were these ticking time bombs that could go off in my face, is so hurtful. Apart from this issue, we've had such a loving and sweet relationship. The best and most secure romantic relationship I've ever had. There's so much good stuff here. But I am struggling to let go of this. And I don't know if he fully understands what he has done or the impact on me. I don't think he gets the fact that because of his secrecy, on top of working through the emotions of leaving my home and family. And now there is this question in my mind: if I hadn't found out about his daily drinking and smoking, would he still be hiding that from me? I can only assume that he would be. I don't feel like this is a relationship ender for me, but I am sad that I have been put in this position. Obviously there are more conversations that I need to have with my partner about this. And I will be, soon. I just need a place to vent and receive some feedback/advice, and I guess some validation that my difficulty with this is warranted. Thanks so much for listening. Next story 3. My boyfriend followed his ex while him and I were broken up. My BF and I have been together for roughly 5 months now. The beginning of our relationship was sunshine and rainbows, as the beginning usually is, but around the end of month 2, due to some stuff he had going on, we began to argue a ton, and it was a lot of back and forth for 2 weeks before he ended up breaking things off. We spent another 2 or 3 weeks after that trying to figure things out. At one point I cut him off completely. He came back after a week of no contact saying that he wanted things to go back to the way they were. I agreed because I do feel a lot for him, and he's the first guy who constantly tries to keep our relationship healthy. But, while we were working on getting back together, one day I saw his Instagram following go up one, and out of curiosity I went snooping, and it ended up being his ex. According to him, he hasn't heard from her in over a year. They dated in high school, were best friends and talked for a year before they were official, but were only official for 6 months. At the beginning of our relationship, when he first showed me who she was, we were showing each other our exes. He called her dumb and said she wasn't a good person. I guess I should have seen that as a red flag. Anyways, I called him out on following her as soon as I saw it, and he reacted angrily, removed her on Insta, and said if he had any remaining connection with her he wouldn't remove her. He never really gave me a straightforward answer on why he followed her in the first place, though. I always just wonder, if she's not a good person and there's no longer anything between them, why did it happen in the first place? We ended up back in a relationship eventually, but I can't stop thinking about what happened, and I feel like I can't really forgive him for it. Am I being insecure/crazy? Comment. As long as the ex wasn't abusive, or if peace has been made after a period of no contact, isn't it okay to follow an ex? Given that there's no constant communication, or being obsessed about them. When you both break up, you are not entitled to how he acts. I'm sorry, but cutting someone off means that there are literally no strings attached anymore. You don't have control over him, and he doesn't have control over you during that time. When I read this I thought you meant that he stalked her. You're upset because he followed her on Instagram? I thought that you wanted a healthy relationship. My wife is a stylist and just finished cutting my ex-girlfriend's hair. After that my ex and I chatted for 20 minutes. Now she is cutting my ex-wife's fiancé's hair. I say this to say that there is no reason that people from prior relationships with each other cannot remain friends. My exes are some of my best friends. We broke up because we weren't good as a couple anymore, but there is no reason that we can't be friends. You're 21, it's time to start behaving like an adult. Something I was told before that really stuck with me and definitely helped a lot: an ex is an ex for a reason. Once you break up, it should be over and it's important to move on. Plus going back to an ex will make them feel like they have control over you and will repeat the issues. All in all, it's time for a new partner, one you can trust. Best of luck, my friend. Of all the things I've heard in my life, the one that has been the most helpful is to listen to my gut. I'm just not sure why it would matter if he was still talking to anyone while you were technically split or on a break. Also consider, he may have reached out to her and had a convo or experience that showed him just how much he needed you, so if it happened on a break and he came back to you, you might be happy he did interact with her. Communicate your uneasy feelings, that it feels uncomfortable to know he tried to reach out. Yes, a simple follow after not having any contact is the first step of reaching out to his ex while you were on break. Discuss further solutions to how you both could get over this and set boundaries. You were broken up, so he is in his right to pursue other partners, but you're also within your right to be upset about him showing signs of moving on so quickly in your standards. You've only been with him 5 months. If it doesn't feel right now, that resentment feeling will come back if not properly addressed on both sides. No matter what you decide, stand your ground and set your boundaries. You've lived over 20 to 21 years without him, you can do it again, and vice versa. Be an adult.